I'm sure you've seen the news articles. In the spring of 2025, families in one part of Cape Coral turned on their faucets and got nothing. They didn't have water for showers, no water for dishes, and some of them, for weeks at a time, had no water. 6 months later, bulldozers were still clearing lots for new subdivisions just 2 miles away. So, which is it? Is Cape Coral running out of water or not? Now, if you've spent any time in the Cape Coral Facebook groups or watched the local news, you've probably landed on one or two answers. Either Cape Coral is running out of water and the city won't stop building anyway, or you're in the opposite camp. You say it's overblown and it's not really happening. And here's the thing, both of those answers are actually true, but both of those answers are also incomplete because they're actually describing two completely different water systems as if they're one and the same. And once you separate them, the whole story makes a lot more sense. Hi, I'm Jami Kolev with the Kolev Group, and my husband and I get this question consistently from people who are planning to relocate here. It's usually one of the first things that comes up right after, what about the hurricanes? So we went straight to the source. South Florida's Water Management District's own orders, the city's utilities data, and the engineering studies behind this. Because our clients are making six-figure decisions based on the answer. So here's what we're going to cover in this video. We're going to talk about what's actually happening with Cape Coral's water, why most of the city isn't even affected at all, which part of it is, how the city is fixing it, and on what timeline. One wrinkle almost nobody talks about, and the real official way to check a specific property where it stands before you buy. So let's start with the single most important thing to understand, because it explains basically everything else in this video. Cape Coral does not run on one water system. It runs on two, and they are not connected. The first system is the city water. That's what most of Cape Coral drinks, cooks with, and showers with. And it comes from a deep aquifer system, somewhere between roughly 700 and just over 1,000 feet underground. The city treats it through reverse osmosis at two plants, one in the southwest and one in North Cape Coral. And this source was specifically chosen because it's really deep, it's insulated from drought, and it's stable. So it's not something that swings with every dry season. The second is the private well water, which you'll find mostly in North Cape, and this is where the actual crisis lives. If you've downloaded our relocation guide before, you know we've already flagged Northwest and Northeast Cape Coral as the parts of the city most likely to still be on well and septic, instead of using city utilities. Those wells draw from the Mid-Hawthorn Aquifer. It is a much shallower source. It's only about 125 feet down, and it simply wasn't built to support the number of homes now sitting on it. So when you see the headline that says Cape Coral is running out of water, it is almost always talking about the second group, not the city as a whole. Now, that doesn't mean this was overblown because it is a real emergency for people, so it's worth walking through what actually happened. In November of 2023, South Florida Water Management District put the designated shortage area under a mandatory irrigation limit, so they were only allowed to water their lawn 1 day a week. Conditions kept getting worse though, so by the spring of 2025, the well level had dropped to a record low, edging towards a point that the regulators say could cause lasting damage to the aquifer. So by May of 2025, the district escalated to a full irrigation ban for anyone on that well system, meaning 0 watering days a week. Now, understandably, some residents pushed back really hard on this. At a town hall on the issue, one Northwest Cape Coral homeowner said it plainly, that the city needed to stop building until the infrastructure caught up. The city's response was that a blanket construction moratorium isn't legally simple because property owners with proper zoning have a protected right to develop, and that its strategy instead was fast-tracking the fix that's already underway. Now, I'm going to step back and I'll let you weigh both of those positions for yourself. So what is this strategy that the city is fast-tracking? Before we go into that, if you're planning a move down here and this is the first you're hearing that Cape Coral even has two separate water situations, that's exactly the kind of thing that our relocation guide walks through. It is free and it's linked in the description below. Okay, so let's talk about what's actually being done. This is the Utilities Extension Project, or the UEP. Now, I've done videos on this before, and I've definitely talked about it a lot when I bring up development and growth, so you've probably heard me mention it before. If you haven't, in plain terms, it's the city physically running water, sewer, and irrigation lines into the neighborhoods that are still on well and septic, so that those homes can get off the Mid-Hawthorn Aquifer completely. Now, because of the shortage emergency, the city says it has fast-tracked this project. It's moved one phase's timeline up by 5 years. Now, as it stands, one section, which is the North 1 West, is complete. North 1 East is targeted for 2027, and the last piece covering the entire remaining affected area is targeted for 2030. Now, I know there's a lot of opinions on the UEP, but there's genuinely encouraging news here, and I want you to hear it. The city says that as more homes in that first completed section switched over to city water, the Mid-Hawthorn Aquifer level climbed back above a key safety threshold for the first time in years. And the state actually eased the restriction back down from a full irrigation ban to 1 day a week. That is real progress. It's just not finished yet. Now, here's the piece that even most local coverage skips, and it's the reason I wouldn't call the city water is totally fine side of the story full either. Because remember that deep aquifer system feeding the city's water plants? The one that I said is stable and insulated from drought? In 2023, researchers, including a team from the Geological Survey of Norway, published a study finding that the pumping needed to feed that system has been measurably compacting the ground underneath North Cape Coral. Nearly 40 square miles of land is shrinking at a rate of roughly an inch or more a year. Now, to be clear, this is not a drinking water safety issue. Your tap water is not affected by this. But it means the unlimited water forever version of the story isn't quite right either. There is a real, if slow-moving, cost to how the city sources its water on both sides of the equation. So if we zoom out, the real takeaway isn't yes, Cape Coral is running out of water or no, it's totally fine. It's that this is a two-part system with two different pictures. And the smart move is checking the specific one you're buying into and not just the headline. So a few of you have asked if we built a lookup tool for this, but we didn't because honestly, the two organizations that actually maintain this data have already published one. The city's own utilities extension map shows exactly which areas are still on well and septic and roughly when they're scheduled to get city water. South Florida's Water Management District publishes the current boundary of the active restriction areas on their site. We'll put both of those links in the description, but if you want a plain English version of what they mean for a specific property that you're looking at, please don't hesitate to call us. That's exactly what we're here for. All right, so real quick recap. Cape Coral runs on two separate water systems, not one. The real emergency has been contained to a well and septic pocket, mostly in the northeast, with parts of the northwest facing similar pressure. The city is actively fixing it on a timeline that's improving but not finished. And even the safe side of the story has a long-term wrinkle worth knowing about. So if you came into this video expecting a simple yes or no, I hope what you're leaving with is better than that. You know exactly which questions to ask and where to actually check for that answer instead of just reacting to the headlines. And if you're relocating to Cape Coral and you want the full breakdown, don't forget to grab our free relocation guide. It's linked below and it's got everything you need to know. And if you've already got a specific address in mind, reach out to us. We'd love to have a conversation with you and walk you through it. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you found this helpful, and we'll see you in the next one.